Khabib Nurmagomedov came out. He commented on Khamzat Chimaev. And he simply said, Chimaev deserves a top 10 opponent next, and then a title shot. Now, I would imagine that Khabib thinks fondly of Chimaev because Chimaev thinks fondly of Khabib. Chimaev was even calling himself Khabib 2.0. I have always assumed that those guys' paths crossed, that they used to train together or be in the same room. Now, I assume that based on the Chechnyan, Dagestani heritage of these guys, but I don't know if that's accurate. I'm more asking you a question than making a statement. Because Chimaev now lives in Sweden. When he got there, when he went there, so this would have had to be something in his youth. But if anybody knows that answer, I've always assumed that Chimaev was in the room, a teammate of some level of Khabib. I'm assuming that based on nothing. Based on just the region that they both came from. So if somebody knows the answer, I would be curious to know if these guys have a childhood past. Moving on, let's break down what Khabib said, because Khabib said something that I agree with. He deserves a top 10 opponent and then a title shot. I don't have a problem with either one of those. But you then have to ask the question reversed. Does a top 10 guy deserve Chimaev? Do they deserve to have that happen to him? I mean, when a guy busts on the scene that is flat scary, has some incredible skills, is getting a big push, and he is now going to be brought in to take on you to get the shine to then propel him to a title shot. You would then want to ask a similar question. Okay, I'm taking a risk. I've established myself. I've been here. I've done some heavy lifting. Got a number next to my name. Good for me. But you're saying that this guy's going to come in, get the best of me, and go into a title shot. If he doesn't, if I stop him, do I get the title shot? And the answer is probably going to be no. Right, if we're just saying a top 10 guy, when's the last time you saw a guy, number 9's in the top 10? When's the last time you saw a guy fighting the rank number 9 and go right into a title shot? Rank number 7, get a win, go right into a title shot against somebody that wasn't ranked. So you see where this becomes a little bit of a push and pull. And you may not get your way in that, look, I'm hearing if this guy gets me, he's going in for the title. Is that good for me? No, it's not good for me. Okay, great. Well, what does happen here? This sounds like a lot of risk. What does happen here? Do I get any level of run? Do I get any level? You just have a back and forth. And ultimately, with those guys in the top 10, you're going to find one of them that's a competitor that isn't going to give a damn. One of them just wants to compete. And looking at that number next to your name is a very bizarre concept. All right? The only number that matters is champion. That's the only one that we can identify that matters. Even the number one contender doesn't get the title shot. Number one contender is not something that is based on a ranking. Just so you understand, you can be the number one ranked. It does not make you the number one contender. The number one contender is the guy with the contract signed who is up next to fight for the title. That is the number one contender. The number 4 guy could be the number one contender by example. So if you're sitting arguing over rankings, you're arguing with somebody who doesn't care about the rankings or do the rankings. And some level you must observe them for the integrity of the sport. But you will have many guys who are largely a push. I don't know, here's an example. I don't know what Leon Edwards is ranked. I also know he hasn't lost in 4 years. His last loss was to the current champion Kamaru Usman, and he's won 8 in a row. I don't know what he's ranked. I know it is not 1. I know he is not the number 1 contender. I know you could bring him in at any point, put him in a title shot, and nobody would question, at least from an integrity standpoint, if the sport was being shown respect. Nobody would disagree that Leon easily, if some ranking member would have put him at 1, he'd be 1. I assume he's in the top 5. He's probably closer to 5. If somebody put a 5 next to him, say, okay, then fine, he's 5. But it's one of those things where you start to have this really interesting debate. Colby Covington is 1-1 in his last 2. They were both against world champions. So you see where he gets propelled within the debate. He doesn't have to go back 8 wins. He doesn't have to go back 4 years. But they could hold a different ranking, even though they both have a very interesting and very different argument as to why. I bring that in because a lot of is made of the rankings. You will hear an athlete say, it doesn't matter what I'm ranked. Oh, I don't care about rankings. Until you get asked to fight somebody that is ranked in a different spot than you, and then you will start to argue this case. And it's always a straw man fallacy. These fighters get so close to the trees they can't see the forest. They don't realize that the average fan has no idea. And aside from an outside shot of ESPN posting your name with a graphic next to it that has that little number next to it, it's just one of these weird things. Plus, if they got a 6 next to your name and you're sitting there arguing, I'm good enough to be number 1, do you want that 6 advertised to the world? I mean, it's a fair question by me. How much do you really want that little number? Somebody walking around who didn't give you a fair opportunity at a fair shake is now telling you that you're number 4? Is that supposed to make you feel good? Does it make you feel good? Then you want to duck a guy that's lower than you and then act as though the rest of us should all follow the integrity of the rankings. Well, this guy's ranked 1, so he should go into a title fight. That's the way that it should be. And my goodness, there's something called the Ollie Act, and I heard something about it that I fully don't understand in the slightest, but I think that that's how they go. But you're ranked number 4. What would it have to do with anything? I can tell you on a personal note, I had a past with a guy named Jeremy Horn, and I've always very much appreciated Jeremy Horn, because as much as this concept that I'm laying out for you guys, as much as this whole concept that should I fight a guy that's not ranked when I am ranked, bang my chest. As much as we're dealing with that now, that's actually not a new phenomenon. This has been going around forever. And I can remember trying to break into the sport. You're trying to break into the sport, it's very hard. It's not like, say you want to play, you want to try baseball as a kid. Oh, you tell your parents, they figure out, they fill out some paperwork, and all of a sudden you're on a baseball team. It's not like that. To find a match in the pros is hard to do. Just to find a match. Anywhere. First fight of the night at the local dog park. It's just hard to find. Not a lot of shows out there. Not a lot of opportunity. Promoters looking for specific. It's just hard to get in. So when I was trying to break in, I was given a big opportunity by Jeremy Horn. Horn was ranked number 1 in the world at the time. If I'm wrong, he was ranked number 2. But he was ranked no lower. And he was fighting on all the regional scenes, and he was just doing a fantastic job. He even had this little gimmick. He would fight on a Friday night and then drive like 2 states away like he was a pro wrestler, weigh in and then fight on Saturday night. I mean, this guy was getting like 6 and 7 fights a month. He was just doing some crazy stuff. But he had caught everybody's attention. And I was just trying to get involved. I was trying to get in somewhere. So Horn gives me a fight. And it was such a big deal for me that Joe Silva had even told my coach, Robert Follis at the time, had talked to Joe Silva. Joe Silva said, I heard he was offered this fight. If Chael takes the fight, it was a short notice fight. He said, if he takes it and he beats Horn, I'll put him in the UFC. So there was a lot on it for me. Horn was on the regional scene and wasn't able to get in the UFC. There was something was going on there, and I can't remember the backstory. It wasn't because he wasn't good enough or ranked high enough. Something was where he wasn't in the UFC. And Horn still gave me the fight. He gave me the opportunity. Didn't go my way. Had another chance to rematch him. Okay, but this time, not on short notice. This time I got to get ready for him. He gave me another rematch. Ultimately, rematch a third time in the UFC. All the while, he's still ranked either number 1 or 2 in the world. I'm still a guy, even though I've got this contract and I'm now fighting him on pay-per-view, I'm still trying to get in. He's giving me every opportunity with no pushback. Didn't know me, didn't owe me anything, but he was a competitor. He was going to take on anybody that wanted to stand across from him. He realized being ranked number 1 made him a scary guy. So instead of him being a dick about being number 1 and using that as some lofty golden ticket, he had the opposite attitude. He goes, I'm number 1. I'm a really scary dude. I'm beating everybody up. 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 a month. Who wants to get in here with me? Because anybody that says yes, I'll do it. It was just a different way of looking at it. But I will tell you, I look back on a personal level, and I look at Horn with a lot of gratitude. I look at him with gratitude for not having that attitude. And I'm only sharing with you, there's 2 different ways to do your career. There's 2 different approaches. You get to choose. But Horn is very fondly remembered, not just by me, and that was Horn's approach.